Hey everybody, it's Alan from Woodcrest Bonsai. And about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks, you know how time goes, I worked on this, I think it's a Port Jackson ficus, or is it a Fort Jackson ficus? I forget. Doesn't matter. It's a cool tree. I like it a lot. And part of that work was I took some cuttings, and that's this tray right here. And, well, I got some decent rooting. And it's interesting because the heaviest, woodiest cutting is the one that's the most vigorous. These other smaller guys are all just kind of hanging in there, but they do appear to be hanging in there. And I certainly lost some, but that's okay. But I purposely left the top of the tree to grow because I wanted to take even more cuttings. And that's what I'm going to do right now. And I'm taking cuttings that are half hard wood. So if we look at, you can see super green, and then it's just beginning to turn brown. And then of course if we look at the trunk itself, it's much almost gray. The old bark on the trunk. So that's where I like to take my cuttings. This is with a lot of trees. Half hard wood. Wood that's maturing and it's not that bright green anymore, but that it's not completely hard. And that seems to be the way that most trees, a lot of trees, will root more easily if you use half hard wood. So I'm going to just, as I'm doing this, I'm just going to root them up right here. Got my rooting hormone, which is just your basic indole butyric acid. And now this is an old bed that these guys have been in here for a while, so it's settled. So I'm going to take my little poker and put a hole in there because I don't think that the cutting itself has the physical strength to go down through the medium. So there we go. So now we have another one right here. And of course I'm also looking at the future of this tree, so I'm trimming off stuff that I was going to trim off anyway. Okay? Leave one leaf. Cut off the rest. Put it into the hormone. And let's see if we can get it through there. Yeah, see, well, it does go through. The cutting does have the strength to go through. I'm going to take this guy. So here's a good example of what I'm talking about. Okay, there's a little knob on this guy of much older wood. And then we have the half hard wood and then the green. And just as an experiment, I think I'm going to leave that little knob of the much harder wood. Because life is all one gigantic experiment as far as I'm concerned. You know, I have a friend who's always saying, you never get it done and you never figure it out. So, just keep on moving on. So here's another just perfect cutting. And look how healthy the leaves are. This thing has just taken off. I did not root prune it. And if you look over here, you can really see how these leaves are much smaller because I did a lot more pruning over here. Ah, I got ficus sap on me. Ooh, cooties. I hate that stuff. Only because it just gets really sticky and nasty, and it's just... And there was a guy who worked on a lot of ficus who actually ended up becoming allergic. And he was forced to wear, like, the nitrile gloves that they use to examine certain parts of your body, which we probably won't go into, because he developed such an allergy to the ficus sap that he could not afford to handle them with bare skin. So I have quite a few ficus, but nothing like that. So I'm taking off 1, 2, 3, probably 4. I think there's another one down here on the first main branch. Or maybe it's in the back branch here. So about 4 or 5 more cuttings. And it's the same deal. And the reason I'm cutting these instead of stripping them is because of the goo. Is because of the latex bark. I want to get as little of that stuff on me as I can. I think it is a good idea just to poke a hole into the medium. And you may be thinking, well, why don't you take the old ones out? I'm not entirely sure they're ready to come out. And if you yank a cutting out prematurely and it really hasn't rooted that well, it could, every time you take a cutting out of a bed, there's a certain level of stress because you're pulling the roots away and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to leave those guys in there. They'll be fine. Oops, dropped it. Bending over for this old body is... Yeah. I used to be young and virile. At least I could bend over to pick stuff up without hurting. Anyway. I suppose if we wanted to hear somebody's medical tales of woe, we'd go to a medical site, right? See, here's a cutting that I took and it got new growth. And I really love this tree. I just love the way that it moves. I love the branch placement. I did have confusion here. There was another branch right here, almost exactly parallel with this. And I really thought about saving that one and taking this one off. But then it just struck me that, I think it's exactly the opposite. So that's what I did. I left this branch. And, this guy here needs to be wired a little bit. Or if you're going to do the clip and grow, I need to take all of this off and promote that guy out that way. But, so just doing that changes everything. And I also took some cuttings last year of this guy, and I only got 2. But they are growing like crazy, especially the big one. Just insane how quickly it's growing. Give it a little poke. Poke salad, Annie. Okay, so where are we going here? I need to move my body so I can see the tree better. So I don't think we really need... Can I take that one? I think I can. I think I'll take a cutting here. But this is all hard wood. This is old wood. But I'm going to do it anyway. So you see how old it is? There's really... The half hardwood is way, way up here. But then you got a cutting that's just way too short. So we'll see. And then I'm going to take some other incidental stuff off without really using them for cuttings, just cutting back the apical growth. And I think I'm going to do the same with this guy. I'm not going to use this one as a cutting because I don't want to go too far back. This will make a beautiful cutting right here. And then we got one here, and this guy here, and probably that guy there too, and then just take off the growing tips of the rest of it. Okay, so there's the tree styled up. And take this leaf off. Watch what just taking this one leaf off does. Well, not much. I'm going to need to take that one and that one. But now you see the line of the tree. And it's funny because it's now wanting to shoot aerial roots. I don't know if you can see it. Well, I guess we can do a close-up, eh? Bring the mountain to Muhammad. Right there, right there, right there, and even way down here. Those are all aerial roots that are just dying to emerge. And it has some aerial roots here, and I'm not entirely sure I want it to be a banyan, but it is kind of interesting that we've got one there, one there, one there, and one down low. All little tiny, tiny aerial roots beginning to emerge. So when we look at the rest of the tree, ignoring the cutting bed, I think that's looking really good. You know, I want to do this too. I may make that as a cutting, but you see this one here is just growing straight up, and I don't want that. I want my branches to go out like that, out like that. This is going to be my apex. If we do the rule of thirds, a third, a third, and a third, this tree isn't going to be that much bigger. I want it much wider though, out here and out here. And that just means promoting this new growth to continue out. So the tree is a lot of fun. And then all I have to do now is take the rest of the cuttings. And I think you've seen enough of that, because it's the same thing over and over and over and over. So there we go, my ficus, either Port Jackson or Fort Jackson. Hey, after 40 years, I'm an expert. I don't even know the name of my trees. And that's okay, because I get the enjoyment out of growing them regardless of whether I know their names or not. I'm going to take just a couple little tiny pieces that are emerging in places where there's no reason for a new branch. So there we go. I'm just going to do the rest of the cuttings off camera. So thank you so much for watching. I'm really looking forward to great things from this tree because it's just such a cool tree. And I will keep you posted. If you have not already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, and you'll be able to watch this guy continue on his way. Plus, I'll give you updates on how well the cuttings rooted, and then we'll go from there. So that's it for this video. 2nd of May, and the month of April was so dry, but they're actually talking about, what is today, Friday? Sunday, a 70% chance of rain, so it's like, yeah! So anyway, thank you so much for watching Woodcrest Bonsai.